Tonight we are talking about hope. I mean, what a rad thing to talk about, right? Yeah, it is rad. We should talk about it more. In fact, I encourage you to talk about your hope more than you do. I want you to talk about it tomorrow, and I want you to talk about it next week. And I want you to start getting in the habit of talking about what is your hope, where does it come from? So I ask you tonight, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Here's my first one. What do you think of when you think of hope? For some of us, certain people are coming to mind, right? People who inspire us and invite us into a better future. You see that person right now in your mind. For others, it might be a feeling of expectation or a desire for some future thing to happen or some circumstance to come to pass. We hope for good things like restoration where there is brokenness, for peace where we are experiencing conflict, for truth where lies have taken root in our lives, and for hope in life where we're experiencing death. Now, hope is powerful, right? I mean, how do we understand when our circumstances and unmet desires, they're screaming at us to embrace anger and confusion and fear? And yet hope, it mysteriously compels us towards this confidence and peace. Hope is absolutely necessary then if we're going to think and live well in this life. So what happens when we lose our hope? I offer it's that moment when we allow our present circumstances and future concerns to tell us who we are and who we are becoming. So to put it simply, when life is good, we're good. And when life is challenging, well, sometimes we feel hopeless. And given the state of affairs these last few years, I understand why so many people at times they feel hopeless. This is especially true of teenagers. Like all of us, they too have been experiencing what has felt like movement from one crisis to another. In their hands, they hold access to the entire world. And that digital world that they live in is having a conversation largely without you or me, other adults, or the church. And they're left alone trying to sort through many confusing and contradictory narratives about life and faith and hope on their own. Let's be honest. Sometimes, especially right now, they're just being flat out lied to. Our young people live in rooms without us, and they're being told lies. We cannot lose heart. We cannot give up. We have to continue to show up and fight the good fight. Let us start more schools. Let us get into communities. Let us continue this work. We cannot give up on them. Yes. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. But it's true. It's not just contradictory. They're being fed lies, and we see the destruction that's happening all around us. So in part, that's why at Pacifica we ask good questions. Why? Because wrestling with a good question is a necessary step in a quest for truth and meaning, things we desperately need as humans. It's also the antidote for lies and confusion. Now, Christians have been asking good questions for thousands of years. We're not the first to do this, of course. As the rulers of this world have changed and as circumstances for life and commerce and culture have fluctuated, the Christian's answer to two very important questions has never wavered. So the first question, what is our only hope in life and death? That we are not our own. We belong to God. This is a profound reality, and it should change every aspect of each of our lives. The second question, equal importance. Why did God make us? Why did he make you? And you? Do you know why he made us? For his own glory. Hope is not found in ourselves. This is one of those lies they're being told. It's not. We just don't find it in us. Our hope is not found in our circumstances. We hope they're good, and we hope they're good for them. Our hope is in the confident and patient expectation in the promises of God that he has given to us, his people. This is where our hope lives, and it has its meaning. So let's play this out a bit further. The creator and sustainer of all life. I mean, we are surrounded by the abundance of life. We have the moon. We can't see the stars yet. The creator of all of those things. The creator of everything we can see and all that we can't see. Friends, there's things all around us we don't see. The creator of every man and woman that walks the face of this earth and everyone that's come before us. That God, he made you. And he made you. And he actually made this whole side of the left room over here. He made me. He made your children. You see, we are loved by a God whose likeness we bear in our very body and mind. In our very existence, it brings him glory. As parents and grandparents, this isn't a strange thing for us, right? Our children, they look like us. We look at their baby photos. There they are. You've been thinking, especially those who are graduating, your kids, they look like you. Their existence brings you joy until they become teenagers. I'm only kidding, slightly. Our circumstances and experiences in life, they change. There are seasons. Some of you are changing seasons. God bless you. I often tell our students life is not linear. You can't map it out. It doesn't always make sense, and it's not predictable, at least not always. Therefore, our hope cannot be found in the things that we are doing or the circumstances we are experiencing, but in the truth that we are not our own. We belong to God, to Christ, and our very existence brings him glory. And from this strong foundation, we send our graduates into the world to live lives of faith, to do good, and to cultivate human flourishing wherever they are. This is how we solve the problem we're in. So there was something that happened to me recently that I think illustrates this point. So let me tell you a quick story, I promise. It's going to be quick, but you shouldn't give me a mic. So as is common this side of heaven, life and things and good things especially, they don't always come easy. Getting pregnant for Dana and me was difficult. It's a common and painful experience for which we weren't prepared, and I'm sure some of you weren't either. After several years, though, Hadley was born, and then quickly thereafter, Chloe came too. Gosh, so much good, so much joy after years of sadness and sorrow. We desired to have a bigger family, so 7 years thereafter, we worked, and we worked to have another child or more. We prayed and we prayed. And somewhere about year 8, guys, we just stopped thinking about it. We stopped talking about it. Our lives just went on. And then a pandemic, seemingly out of nowhere, took the world by storm. Those first few months into the pandemic were so disorienting. Like possibly many of you, the uncertainty of the moment and the sheer amount of conflict, they had gotten the best of me. I was down. It was around that same time, it was June 2020, Pacifica was making great efforts to meaningfully send our third graduating class into the world. I was working from home like most of you, except for David Bonson, when the phone rang. We were 48 hours before our graduation ceremony was to take place. And if it's on the slide here, we had already built an 80-foot stage that stood 20 feet in the air with approximately 100 intelligent lights. It was already built, friends. And here on the phone, this local official who had authority told me, hey, you got to take it down. You can't do this. I already had permission, so there I am on the phone trying to negotiate a compromise with this person when my wife walks into the room. By the way, no heads up, no preparation, but she's holding a pregnancy test with 2 bold pink lines. I didn't even know she thought she was pregnant. I felt like I was in the Matrix. Do you all remember this movie? You know that part where Neo sees all the green numbers and they're just kind of going around and all of a sudden the world stops and bullets are flying and he's like, oh, that's cool. I'll just, and he drops it. I felt like that, except the exact opposite. At that moment, I had no idea or understanding of what was happening in our world. I didn't have a clarity about why it was happening. And I didn't have peace about how it would play out. After I got off the call, Dana and I kind of sat on the floor in silence mostly. In the distance, we could hear our 2 girls attempting to learn on Zoom. My final question. How do you respond when 10 years of prayer and longing is finally answered in your life? In my experience, it depends. Where is your hope? At that moment, I didn't have an imagination for the life or the world this child would be born into. All I could see were incredibly challenging circumstances, and had momentarily forgotten where my hope breathes and lives and has its meaning. So then how was I to give that to this little boy, or any of your children for that matter? As an aside, I picked up the phone and I started calling friends. And I just kept calling. And they reminded me where my hope lives and has its meaning. It took time. It was a process. Now, by no means is my life or circumstances extraordinary. They're not. This is ordinary stuff. So I have to imagine that you too have had this type of experience, in some way at least. Our responses in moments of confusion or hardship or disappointment, or in this case, new life, abundance, answered prayers, our responses are usually nothing more, and they are certainly nothing less than a reflection of how we've been thinking and living up to that point. Friends, this is why the mission of Pacifica, to teach students to think and live well, is of the greatest significance. Tonight we come to celebrate this mission, this work, the work of my colleagues, men and women who pour into the lives of teenagers. What exactly are we celebrating? It's a truly unique education. And I'm not going to be coy about it. We're unique. There's nobody like us. We prepare our students, yes, for college and meaningful work. Yeah. I don't usually do that, but I think it's true. We equip them to achieve success in both those endeavors, which is important. As a distinctly Christian school, we invite students into a lifetime of faith with Christ and with the church, which is of eternal significance. But as a head of school and as a father, a parent like many of you, I desperately pray that we are helping our students, your children, find their hope in this life, and dare I say it, in their death. In the knowledge that they are not their own. They belong to God. Their very existence brings him glory. May these two truths bring them through life with great hope and certainty. A hope that gives way to courage. Courage to live life to the fullest, offering what they have and what God has given them for purposes beyond themselves in the home, in the church, in the marketplace, in the wider world. Thank you for trusting us with this, the Pacifica education in your children. Our partnership with you is profound. Like many of my good friends who reminded me in my time of need that my hope is found in the promises of Christ, our faculty and staff seek to remind your children of this reality every day, especially when they're hopeless. Thank you for giving to this work. It takes a lot of money. We didn't start a school with a big pay. We started with $10,000 in a building somewhere. I think it was on, I don't know. But this group said, no, we can do better. Not just for us, but for this community and for the world. And because of that commitment, because of your sacrifice, because you keep showing up and taking the next step of faith, we're going to journey together and we are going to change the world one student at a time. This February, we opened up a new home only because you provided it for us. Alex Stewart's going to come up. He's going to tell you a story of hope. But first, let us enjoy this place that you have given us. Thank you and God bless you.